Hi, everybody. How are you? Happy Monday evening, Thanksgiving week. Oh boy, I know you guys are getting ready and hiding while the wife or the girlfriend is shopping and all that. But we have a really good show tonight. My dear friend Mike Massa is going to come in and talk a little bit about some of the broken hearts that are trying to mend themselves today after Brandon Nimmo, a fan favorite, an original Met since I believe his rookie year in 2015. He was traded yesterday, part of the retooling what David Stearns, the president of baseball operations, is doing for the Mets. Uh, Pretty much you could tell he wants to break up this core. The core hasn't done anything. Well, they have. They've disappointed you. And without further ado, my pal, Mike Moss. Hey, Mike.
Vinny, how are you?
How
Got
you
my
doing?
got my Met shirt on. Got
Yeah,
my
me
Met
too.
sweatshirt on.
Look, me too.
Oh,
What
well.
did you think?
Yeah, I'm not. I always liked Nimmo, and I always thought he was best. He would be best served as a leadoff hitter. And I think by batting him, sometimes they batted him fourth or fifth with these new types of lineups. I mean, they had a real good leadoff hitter, and he was probably a bit too aggressive. Didn't walk as much as on base percentage drifted, but he
Right.
drove in 90 runs. Um, Again, I think that he would be a much better leadoff hitter, and he's a run producer out of the spot. I don't know Simeon that much. He had a couple of big years. He's an inconsistent hitter.
Yeah, he was a free agent during that shortstop class, and
Yeah,
Texas signed him after a 40-something home run season with
right.
Toronto, and they
Now if there's
actually won the World Series with him.
right now if there's something positive, when I was reading up on him, it's more of an eye test how a guy is defensively. But he did win a Golden Glove, so he's better second baseman than I thought. So he does solidify defense, and I think that was probably an aspect of it, as well
Oh,
as Nimmo had a longer contract.
he's tremendous defensively. Won the Gold Glove this year, and Simeon is a couple of years older than Brandon Nimmo. I think the Mets felt. I don't know how much of this is that Nimmo, his defense was suffering now, and Stearns wants run prevention, or do you think it
Yeah,
really is he wants to break up the core? Do you think that Stearns really feels this core? Now I know this. The Mets
well,
approached Nemo on Friday asking him to waive his no trade. He spent the next day considering it. He called Jacob DeGrom, who he was pretty close with, and then he gave the okay. Um, he was probably shocked. Do you think this is more or less the Stearns wants to break up this core, feeling, look, we haven't won anything. It's going to be negative returns
I,
defensively.
I, I think I think it's more the metrics, but I have to say this. And I'd like to have somebody defend the opposite position because I think not everybody in baseball believes this. I'm going back, but I believe that primarily defense is up the middle. Um, you can always live with adequate defense. When I was a kid, Greg Lazinski played left field because
Right.
he could hit.
Yeah.
Now you might say, well, you know what? No Lazinski in the lineup. What are the chances of him pitching to Mike Schmidt? Is he
Right.
better? And of course, a fly ball right to him, he would catch it.
Right.
He would do
Yeah.
the same thing Lou Brock would do in left field. He would catch it if it was right to him. Now,
Yeah.
now let's be fair. Lou Brock would get balls that he wouldn't be able to get to him. I'm going back to giving you a superior defensive left fielder. I mean, we could say Carl Yastrzemski in the American League, a great left fielder. But remember something:
Mm-hmm.
Lou Brock's in the Hall of Fame, 3,000 hits, a great leadoff hitter, right? I don't have to talk to you about Yastrzemski, how great of a hitter he was. The '67 year was a magical year. People still talk about it.
Hey,
So my
Joe.
my my point is, if you're a left fielder, okay, for them to talk about you were considered to be an all-star, you got to swing the bat.
Mike,
There's no getting around that. It's more of an
that's a great
offensive
point
position.
that you brought up because tell me if you think I'm right about this. Stearns' edict for run prevention that is a very small market um, feel. I'll tell you why. Because generally speaking, there are so many great defensive players you can get on the cheap. It's the bat you pay for. And I think Stearns, who really couldn't
Right.
spend a lot of money, that's why he got into the run prevention because he felt, look, I can't spend money on these big bats. So let's try to put the best defense out there. And I think he still has that
Well,
MO.
and what I will say is, if the best defense that Stern could have in this, well, what two is if he's going to just say, "Hey, look, money, we're tied up only 3 years." The negative is you're trading a 35-year-old for a 32-year-old, and I like Nimmo better. He's career with the Met. I'm disappointed to see him go, but I still my opinion, the best way for him to be been used would out of that leadoff spot. Now, even if they wanted to, against lefties, drop him and play him in the leadoff spot against righties, I could live with that.
Right.
But they really should have had a continuity with Lindor second, Soto third, and Alonso fourth.
Now,
And I'm going to have to say it. This means nothing if you don't sign Pete Alonso.
I agree. Now, last year, he played 155 games. He comes to the post, even though he's been banged up. He had 262, 25 homers, 76 OPS. I know all the stats are crazy. The funny thing is, his run differential was -1, which means he was an average left fielder. His WAR was 2.9, wins above replacement, where if you were to replace him with someone else, he's worth 2.9 wins over the average left fielder. In 127 games, Simeon had a 669 OPS, but he had a 3.3 WAR, missing about 35 games. His defense really brought the WAR up with that offseason.
Okay.
So you would
Now
think,
I want to be consistent.
okay,
That's what I like about it. But he's 35. I don't like that because that's
I know.
slower legs, and that counts in defense.
Mike, they've timed him his last 5 years. He's lost nothing sprinting to first or to first to second.
That's
But
good.
you're right, fielding, it's a little different, the range part. Yeah.
But that I think is important. And by the way, here, let's draw out some stats.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume that he plays a big time defense and he's a top defensive second baseman. And he hits 240 with 22 homers, and so in other words, he gives you some power, but he's an inconsistent bat where basically you're not going to really bat him 1 through 5 in a really good lineup.
Right.
But he gives you some thunder at the end of the lineup. I can live with that at second if you're going to give me top defense at second, and you're giving me something offensively.
Yeah, if he's in the lower part of the lineup, I think it's great. Also, the Mets are very left-handed. I think he was trying to go more right-handed.
Well,
Stearns.
who are you going to go? But like I said, again, if this Met lineup needs to have Alonso batting in that fourth spot. I'd love to see Lindor second, Soto third, and Alonso fourth. You can't get better than that. And you got to and the best candidate to bat first would have been Nimmo. Now you could, by the way, I don't have any. Lindor could bat first. He does a great job. Somebody else could bat second. Soto should not be batting second under any circumstances. Now I get it. You want somebody. You want not just Lindor. You want somebody else with a high on base percentage. If you do the right thing and you sign Alonso and you have third and fourth, Soto and Alonso, probably the best third and fourth in baseball, by the way.
Absolutely. Now,
So you want somebody with an on base percentage north of 350. We know we can rely on the shortstop to do that, whether he bats first or second. Who else we're going to rely on? And and Nimmo was the best candidate for that.
Yeah. Now, Simeon also is going to help Alonso going to his right with the defensive metrics. So Alonso will be helped by Simeon. I think they brought him in for the leadership. He's supposed to be a great guy. Now, listen, Nimmo was a great guy. But here's something interesting, Mike. Verducci did a report on the best left fielders in New York and picked Verdugo a couple of years over Nimmo. And evidently, Nimmo got in his face and was very insulted by it. And now also the talk about Lindor being a captain last year, evidently Adam Ottavino did a special, and he said that Mendoza's ruining the pitchers. He doesn't know how to handle pitchers. The Mets have more injuries than anyone. But he also said Nimmo was very, very hurt by Nimmo not being considered the captain when he's been there since 2015. Lindor was traded for. Do you think that had anything to do with it? And also another question, because you're a legal
Sure.
guy. Ottavino, I believe, with the strike coming up and pitching and all of a sudden Ottavino comes out on a broadcast and starts knocking how pitchers are being used. I think that will be in the bargaining where they're trying to do the bargaining with
Well,
owners. You
yeah,
think that's an
this
interesting
is
statement?
well, it's a lot to digest. But going back to Nemo, look, showing a little pride. I'm glad he mentioned Verdugo. Verdugo is a very interesting. What's Verdugo's problem? So why don't they leave Verdugo alone and just play him? You know, he has good fundamentals. He's pretty good with the glove, right? What's the
Yeah,
problem? Well, he doesn't hit enough to play left field consistently on a major league level. It's really that simple.
right.
So if Verdugo was a very good defensive shortstop, now he's no Lindor, okay. But let's say he had a very good glove and he was a shortstop. I wouldn't have any problem. He'd have a respectable glove if he was a top notch defensive shortstop. That's
Yeah,
why Lindor's now. Why is Lindor a special player? Because he's a top defensive shortstop and hits like that.
yeah, yeah.
But I
Agreed.
do I still believe in that. Like for example, I like Bader in center field, an excellent center fielder like that, an inconsistent bat. Bader's bat for the defensive skills he had in center field played well. They would not have played in the corner outfield position even if he was a superior defensive player in left or right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think a lot of this
In fact,
trade,
Bader's a guy that I wouldn't mind them
either would
seeing in
I.
center field again for the Mets.
Don't know if he'd come back here though. I'll
But
tell you.
except what he is, he's going to hustle, play a top defensive center field.
Absolutely.
Once in a while, what you could do, you could even put against a lefty him a Simeon in the leadoff spot against lefties because Bader actually could handle the bat. But now I'm not going to go tell you. Do I think Bader can consistently hold the leadoff spot for the whole year? No, I don't think he's that consistent of a hitter. If
Right.
he was, he'd be an all-star.
Well, they say he's found lightning in the bottle. The problem with Bader is you're going to have to pay him off a great year last year. And is
Yeah.
he really that player, or did
By the
is
way,
that off?
and I'll tell you another problem with Bader. If I had to sit down, I'd say to him, "You're a good player. You can start. Why aren't you consistently on the top of the order? You got a little pop. You got spunk in you. You hustle. You must walk more."
Yeah. Well, you wonder at this age if they could. I think really this trade.
That's where. Remember the old with the computer with the nerds? They made it with the walk and they fell in love with walks.
Sure.
In certain areas, in certain types of players, it is actually very valuable. He doesn't walk enough. Bader does not walk enough to be a consistent top of the order hitter. Okay, unless you're going to tell me, well, he's going to bat 350. Is he going to bat 350? We know that's not true. So if he can bat 270, he still needs to walk enough.
Right. I totally agree with you. You know what I think? I think that this really was Stearns flexing he wanted roster flexibility. I think Nimmo was going to end up a DH, and you have Soto who's going to be a DH. You're not going to be able to dump Nimmo in 2 years with that contract. Now, I think the Mets have options to replace him, but I think this shows more Mike than anything. Now you don't have a left fielder or a center fielder. This would lead me to believe the Mets are going for a big time outfielder.
Like Kyle Tucker?
Tucker or Bellinger. I don't think Bellinger's going to leave the Yankees.
No, he fits in good there.
Do you think Kyle, they would go for Tucker? He's going to want $350 million.
Yeah, I don't know. You're going to tie up all that money. That's a lot of money in the outfield. He's also obviously he would have to play left field.
Right. I think they might move Soto to left.
Soto has an arm though. He has a good arm.
That's the thing. And he might be able to play a little better left. The thing is with Simeon, you're never going to get that seismic hitter that he was 3 years ago. But he's still one of the great fielders still. He hasn't shown any.
The defense is important.
Absolutely.
But if he's inconsistent offensively, he's going to have to bat towards the end of the order. similar to like I judge, but defense at second base has to be. In other words, look, defense is important anywhere. You could lose the game on an error in left field. Get that?
Right.
I get that. But over the
Right.
course of 160, superior defense up the middle is a priority. And let's put it this way: you never heard of I at least. What about they always used to have. Now they don't have it as much anymore because I know the game's changed. But the light hit defensive specialist at short, right?
Right.
By the way, we would never talk about Ozzie Smith maybe in this day and age because he couldn't hit at all when he first came up, and he developed himself into a very good hitter. To his
220
credit,
hitter he was. He was a 220
right.
hitter.
And Ozzie Smith later on with the Cardinals, I know he's known for that home run, which was out of character for him. But he was a nice top. A lot of times he batted second. He got on base and he hit for a good average with the Cardinals. He upped his game offensively. He matured into a pretty good offensive set. And obviously we know about the great defense.
Absolutely.
But, I don't know in this day and age would they have tolerated it when if you look at his numbers with the Padres, Ozzie Smith. Did they look at it? But in that day and age, and by the way, even though the Padres were a bad team, even on a good team, you might have had a guy like Ozzie Smith.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Orioles had a guy named Mark Belanger, who was a great. Now he was respectable. He handled the bat, and then they had the greatest. What's interesting? They had probably what was considered the greatest defensive third baseman ever, Brooks Robinson.
Right.
But Belanger was really at shortstop, and in their center fielder was incredible.
Paul Blair.
Paul Blair was incredible. Right. So it was one of the great defensive teams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things also,
and I think Davey played second. He won a Golden Glove too.
Yeah.
He this was the younger Davey Johnson before he lost a lot of range by the time.
Yeah.
When he set that home run record, it was with the Braves.
Yeah.
Right.
With the Braves.
And there's no doubt that's what his baseball career is known for, the 40 home runs. But he was a pretty good second base. He was a much better defensive second baseman than he was younger with Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Well, they wouldn't tolerate back then. Early, they wouldn't tolerate substandard defense up the middle.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is also, Simeon doesn't strike out. I'm going to show you a few highlights for our viewers here.
What's his strikeout?
Let's see what Simeon can do. Take a look at Simeon in the field.
This one lined up the middle, and what a catch by Simeon.
I like.
That is a nice
the gloves very important to me.
job here by Marcus Simeon. You see him get about 3 steps. Bradley's 2-2 pitch, and that ball's hit well. Deep out to left field.
He also pulls the
one
ball.
Could be gone. First in the air for Marcus Simeon.
By the way,
and the Rangers jump out quickly tonight.
Yeah.
Simeon's home run power is more than enough. Offensively, his biggest problem is the other consistency. Otherwise, he would be good, even a second place hitter if you wanted to bat Lindor second. If he could bat 270, 280 and a high, that would really make that lineup, like an engine.
Yeah, it's nice because he doesn't strike out. You have him up 8th or 9th, and you see the range. Do you know that he still saved 7 runs last year? He's not the field. He saved about 20 a couple of years ago, but he is still a hell of a lot better than Jeff McNeil. And I would think that his veteran leadership, I also think that he is going to rebound a bit this year with the bat. He was injured the second half of last year. Listen, I think this guy will give you 20 and 70 if he goes 150 games. And listen, with that defense, and the Mets had a very hard time with double plays last year. I think the double play will be in order now.
That's important.
I think that this just you're trading some home runs and RBIs for the defense at second. But you were paying Nimmo as a center fielder when you signed that contract. He's no longer can play center. And I think this opens up. And this opens up now left field for another player. So you.
But I didn't have an issue with Lindor's defense in left field. I mean,
second half of the year, he was -1 defensively for the year. He's -8 the second half of the year.
He has, had pretty good speed. He It's good. I'm wondering how to construct a lineup. I really don't. I really don't like. I mean, I feel like calling, and I like Mendoza as a manager, but I would tell him, and I don't care what the front office says. I mean, and he had Soto. Soto did bat third sometimes.
Yeah,
Most of the times he didn't. But I said Soto should be. Ask Keith Hernandez what he thinks. Soto should be your third place hitter.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally. I think they like to put you up in the order because you get more at bats.
Oh,
They feel
yeah, but your RBIs, what they did to Mike Trout, how many RBIs that guy lost? Because the guy was batting second.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you something. The interesting thing now is if you have a contact hitter at the end of the lineup, like Simeon, and then you have
What's his strikeouts? Let's just see what his stats. He doesn't strike out that much.
Simeon. Let me see. I don't believe so. He missed 35 games.
His average isn't that good.
No. He used to hit 270. He hit 230, but he was injured.
And he does. I did take a look at some of the stats. You know, he draws some walks. He doesn't swing at anything.
The thing with him last year, Mike, was he still had a 3.3 WAR, higher than Nimmo. He missed 25 games, and if you put those 35 games, if you put those in, he's going to, because of the defense. He still went 15 and 62, missing 35 games. So that's probably 20 and 70. And last year he struck out 93 times in an off season. He usually strikes out 105 times.
Sure. As it stands right now, who are the Mets going with in center field? Mullins is not. He's not? They're not going to sign him again. I assume. He's not.
No. They signed Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor signed the other day, but he certainly. They said Carson Binge has a. He said Stern said he has a chance to make the team in starting day line. I think they'd like Binge. I think.
Carson Bench was in AAA last year.
Yeah, center fielder,
left-handed hitter.
I believe so. I don't think they think Williams is ready. I think they would like to keep Jet Williams in the minors the whole year. He's 22. I don't think he's quite ready, but I do think that I think they're going to go after Fernando Tatis.
And playing where precisely? Left field.
Right field and move Soto to the left.
I'm not. I'm one of the ones. I don't think he's so terrible in right field that he's got an arm. He's going to play left field.
Well, Tatis is a platinum glove winner. He is the best right fielder.
Yeah, that was a good move getting him at a shortstop because he always got hurt. He was too big. He was a little too awkward. Now but he does have that arm. You know, a shortstop has to have a good arm, and a right fielder has to have a good arm. You know, obviously a third baseman too.
Yeah.
Where now a shortstop, what the shortstop has in common with the center fielder, you got to cover a lot. You need the range, or it'll kill you. Where you can have an excellent defensive third baseman and right fielder. The arm is critical. First of all, the arm in right field, just so people don't attempt to run on you. That stats never counted.
Right.
When you have a weak arm in right field, people have a field day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just Dwight Evans. I could go Dwight Evans. I never saw Clemente. Older people will rave about Clemente. So
Ichiro.
We should mention Ichiro. Dave Parker had a nice.
I was just going to say Parker. Parker had a great arm.
Yeah, and obviously Dewey Evans, right?
Dwight Evans was great. I love.
We could
Dwight
talk
Evans.
about we could, but we could talk. But come on, those are all and. I know the assist is a great play and it's an exciting play, right? But how many times that they don't bother to run on the guy? That's critical. They don't take the extra base on him.
Brilliant. You know who also had a good arm with the Mets before he got hurt? Rusty Staub had a good arm.
Yes, Rusty did. He didn't have wheels. Now you still, but you still can be you want to be a little faster than Staub, but
yeah. He ran with his feet in his pocket.
Yeah, but you still could be a good corner outfielder, especially a right fielder. You know, without the great range, but with the good arm and obviously the good instincts, and that helps. But the center field is important. As a matter of fact, the range is actually a little bit more important in left field than in right field. The arm is a little bit more important in right field. And
Right.
traditionally, you've seen a lot of, actually, not that many in history of the great leadoff hitters.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of them were left fielders. Obviously, Ricky
Yeah.
Henderson, with the center field speed. So you had
Nimmo has no arm. Nimmo has a terrible arm. Mike, we're going to go through the top 40 arms from the outfield. I'm going to give you a few names. Bobby Abreu.
Yeah, but he used to.
Rick Ankiel, remember the pitcher who was an outfielder?
Yes, and he made some incredible plays. Yeah,
Jay Buhner, Andy Van Slyke, Corey Snyder, Jose Guillen, Mark Whitten, Kirby Puckett. I didn't realize Puckett had a great arm. Jeff Francoeur one time.
Kirby Puckett was built like a fire hydrant.
Oh yeah,
but it's a shame. It's sad because he was really a very well liked guy, and that's one of the controversies. Some people said, well, he was on the edge of the Hall of Fame, but he also brought 2 world championships. And Kirby was a really great center fielder, even though he didn't have a center fielder's built. Whatever he did, being honest, he was. He's maybe my height, but much bigger. But he could hit. He was a great hitter, and he was a great defensive player.
It was a good call.
And he was quick, and he got there. He had a unique build, but it worked for him.
Yeah, Clemente, you called number 1. You're absolutely right. Do you know who they have number 2 on the list? A little before our time. A lot before. Carl Furillo.
Oh, I heard that the Dodgers, yeah.
Jesse Barfield.
Yes.
And
Ichiro was a big hitter, too.
Oh, Vlad Guerrero.
Yes.
Al Kaline. Ellis Valentine, remember him?
Now, here's what's interesting about Vlad Guerrero. He had that he would almost swing at anything, but he was a great hitter. It worked for him.
Right.
So I mean, in an era before him, a guy who was not like completely different than Vlad Guerrero, because Vlad Guerrero was like 6'5".
Yeah, I remember he hit a pitch. He hit a pitch that bounced, and you're allowed.
Yeah,
it is allowed in the major leagues. If a ball bounces and you hit it, it's in play. He hit a ball that bounced for a home run.
Yogi Berra won 2 or 3 MVPs. He also managed the Mets too. People forget that, but he won
73.
2 or 3 MVPs. I'm not sure you could look up. Obviously, all the world championship rings. He might have had 10. He might have the most, but
that's incredible.
But boy, could he hit! He was a great catcher. He handled the Yankee pitching staff was pretty good. It was a little underrated because you think of obviously you think of Mickey Mantle during that era, right after Joe DiMaggio.
Good, though. When you have a staff like that, it makes a catcher look very good. He can call a great game.
Whitey Ford was a great pitcher, and it was going way back.
Absolutely.
But so Barra was just incredible. He would get that bat. I mean, he had some incredible years as a catcher. I mean, maybe all around he's right. There was another guy in the Dodgers, Campanella, who was great.
Roy Campanella, sure.
And Piazza's up there as one of the. Piazza had some incredible years. I mean,
can you imagine, Mike? He was not drafted.
I would still have Johnny Bench first, but you really had some incredible players.
Can you imagine he wasn't drafted, Mike Piazza? Like, how could you miss his talent? The guy wasn't drafted.
No, incredible. They made him out to be a catcher because you would get more of an opportunity.
Yes, yeah, but he was. I've never seen a catcher.
Yeah, Piazza was born a boy. He punished the ball. He had 1 year with the Dodgers with his speed hitting 360 as a right-handed batter.
Mike, you know what's interesting? You look at Mike Piazza's stats. He almost played as many games with the Mets as he did with the Dodgers. The career was split right down the middle. Now, I think
We could get, we could get Mike Piazza on. That would be
I'd
good.
love to get it. I think that Piazza was a little better with the Dodgers.
Yeah, we didn't have to break it down. I think he had more. Well, obviously, because we're Mets fans, but I'm going to tell you, I was at the 9/11 game, most incredible home run I saw, and that's a big regular season moment. Not all the moments, in baseball, you have moments in the regular season too.
I'll put up his stats and let's go over them.
Oh, Mike Piazza?
Yeah, and we'll see between the Mets and how he did. Okay, I can't make it bigger, but
Yeah,
if you
it
look
was
at
a very short time with the Marlins. I remember that.
yeah, he with the Mets. Okay, with the Dodgers, his best years were 112 games. He had 32 homers. Then he hit 36 and 105, 40 and 124. He was great. He played about 6 years with the Dodgers, I think. Now with the Mets, he went. He hit 40 with the Mets, 38, 36, 33. Knocked in 124 runs, 113. His batting average was higher with the Dodgers. He was actually a better hitter with the Dodgers. His batting average was a little higher with the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, it's it's like I said, it's understandable. I mean, but he had just a great career with both teams. I mean, a lot of them in the modern era, he's considered probably the greatest offensive catcher of all time. But but I will tell you though, if you put Johnny Bench up there, Johnny Bench offensively had some incredible. Johnny Bench's year in 1970 is one of the most incredible years.
Let me see if I can grab that. Johnny Bench once said, if Jerry Grody ever was traded to our team, I would be moved to third. Bench really respected Jerry Grody.
Grody was a great catcher.
Great.
And Grody actually could. Now I'm not going to go exaggerate, but he wasn't a terrible hitter. He could handle the bat.
No, he had 290 one year.
Yeah. What Grody's problem, Siva loved pitching to Grody, but I mean they all did. But Grody's problem was he wasn't that healthy. Right. He really couldn't stay, catch 140 games like a lot of seasons. Otherwise, he would have had, a little bit more respectable offensive numbers. He could handle the bat.
Well, he had a tumor on his lung. I mean, after that operation, he never had quite the power that he had. But look at these years. Back in 1970.
Oh, we're going back to Bench, yeah.
45 and 148. 40 and 125, 33, 129. His home runs went down after that lung procedure he had. But look, the guy his 17-year average, his 162 game average was 29 homers, 103 RBIs, 267 batting average. I thought it was a little higher than that, but he'd also 29 doubles, 82 runs scored. He was just tremendous.
Yeah. He had a great year. He also had an almost MVP year for a catcher in '74. He won 2 MVPs, but '74 he had a really incredible year too. That was
in '74.
Garvey won the MVP in '74.
Yeah, in '72 he won it, and in '70 he won it. Mike, do you know he only struck out 100 times twice in his career?
I didn't realize that. I know he had power to right field too, Bench.
And his lifetime slugging percentage was .476. OPS 817. That's a catcher who the last 7 years his hands were beat up, shredded. He was just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you told me who, like I said, I would say who would be number one. I would say Johnny Bench.
I would say so too.
But you know what? Certainly Mike Piazza's in that conversation. Obviously going way back, Yogi Berra, Campanella. Carlton Fisk is a heck of a catcher. He's probably not considered, but he had a real long career, great career. And an honorable mention is, let's also mention Gary Carter, who is in the Hall of Fame deservedly. As a catcher, was an excellent middle of the order hitter for 10 years or so, and that's so so.
Gary Carter was
So Gary
unbelievable.
Carter is absolutely, he was a winner. And he drove in 90 or 100 runs. He was a middle of the order hitter with the Expos, and then coming to the Mets. And then eventually, the legs went, the power went. I think 87 was the decline.
We're going to look at his stats here. He was incredible. Let's see.
Yeah, he changed the Mets when he came to the Mets. That's for sure.
Well, he brought them respectability. If you can look at his stats here, Carter was, 29 101, 27 106, 32 100. His career batting average 262, but over the last 6 or 7 years, it dropped about 20 points.
Now there was, in all fairness, first of all, he had. By the way, Gary Carter could have got the MVP. No Met player got an MVP. He could have gotten it in '86. He drove in, at the catching position, he drove in over 100 runs, and obviously led, to me, a catcher drives in that many runs. I think Schmidt was the MVP, and, Schmidt's a great player, but I don't think Schmidt did anything incredible like 50 home runs or something like that. So
he struck out 103 times in 1977, never struck out 100 times again, and averaged about 55 strikeouts per year in a full season. That's incredible.
Right. But if you look at his career, his year in '86 for the Mets, he had a big year. He drove in. He was he was the cleanup hitter on the best team in baseball.
And caught, what did he play? He played like almost every game then too, right? 1986. Yeah. He played 132 games. He was 24 105, hit 255.
Drove in those runs.
84 was his big year. Well, with the Mets, 32 and 100. In 85, the year they just missed, he hit 281. That was his best year as a Met.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That 85 team was a great team not to make the playoffs.
Honestly, Mike, I thought they were better than the 86 team.
Yeah, and Strawberry hit a blast in St. Louis at the end of the '85 season to win a game in extra innings against off the lefty Daly. But there's interesting team. Another guy, John Tudor, brings to name. I mean, these great left-handed pitchers. Because Randy Jones just passed, and they talked about his two great years he had with the Padres. But you don't see these pitchers anymore.
No, you and I were talking about Randy Jones the other day.
Yeah,
in fact.
That could strike out, could challenge for a Cy Young award, could go to the hill over there to produce like that with 100 strikeouts. A totally different type of pitcher.
John Tudor in 1985. I think John Tudor beat Gooden 2 or 3 times that year, 1-0. He was 21-8. I can't believe he lost 8 games with a 1.93 ERA. His whip was 0.93. Now, Mike, I always had...
How many strikeouts now? I don't think he was...
His strikeouts in, 85, right? He struck out 169, but he would usually strike out 130 guys a year.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, but he knew how to pitch.
And he didn't walk
anybody. He had Ozzie Smith at shortstop. So.
Yeah, and he never walked anybody. He had Pendleton out there. Mike, I always thought this, and you'll find this interesting. I'm wondering.
McGee was a great defensive player too.
I'm curious. Andy Van Slyke they had. I'm curious if you agree with this. I always thought, look at the lefties that came out of Fenway: John Tudor, Bruce Hurst, Bobby Ojeda. They learned how to pitch in Boston because of that Fenway Park wall. I always believed the lefty having to face righties. They kept the ball away, and they knew how to pitch. All of them and won Cy Young awards after they left Boston, other than Ojeda. Tudor, Bill Lee pitched in Boston. Oil Can Boyd pitched in Boston.
Oil Can was a righty, but
oh, was he? But these guys, John Tudor was brilliant. Now, do you think Tudor was as good as Bruce Hurst?
Well, I think Tudor had. I don't think Hurst had those years that Tudor had with the Cardinals. Let's put it that way. I don't think he reached that pinnacle, right? So Tudor won a Cy Young award, I assume, with that year, right, in '85.
Yeah,
No,
Tudor was
Gooden won a Cy Young Award. That's unfortunate for him because that's a Cy Young Award year, but nobody's touching Gooden. That was Gooden's
and Gooden got
magical year.
screwed out of it when Sutcliffe won in '84. Gooden should have won that year. No, you're right. Bruce Hurst was a 2.69 ERA, 2.8. But if you look at his career, 3.92. You're absolutely right. Bruce Hurst wasn't as dominating as I thought. You know why? Because I think he always beat the Mets when he pitched for the Padres. He always would beat the Mets. But no,
Bruce Hurst got the game. Bruce Hurst got the Game 7 start because of the rainout in the '86 World Series, which they skipped over Oil Can Boyd.
Did they?
Yeah.
He struck out a few more guys than John Tudor. John Tudor was unbelievable. You just couldn't hit him. You couldn't hit him. And I know he frustrated the hell out of the Mets. The Mets just couldn't hit him.
You're right. John Tudor was a hell of a pitcher. They had those pitchers. I mean, Tommy John was a pitcher in that vein who was maybe consistent and put together the best career out of all those type of pitchers.
Tommy John was great. He threw very hard in the beginning, remember? And then he had to
Tommy John surgery, right? And plus
he threw 98 at one time. And then for the longevity, Tommy John was unbelievable. And back then, no one came back from that surgery. You just didn't come back from Tommy John surgery.
And I think he won that. I think he won 20 games with the Dodgers. He may have won 20 games with the Yankees.
I'm going to look at his stats here. He finished 288 and 231. His ERA was lower than I thought. 3.34 career ERA. 22.
No, very good. Very good innings. I mean, borderline. I mean, probably with him, you probably would need the magical number of 300 wins.
Yeah. But he was tremendous.
Oh, sure. And he just knew how. Yeah, he knew how to pitch with this thing. I mean, throwing a double play ball. Double plays, again, that's an old saying, pitcher's best friend.
It certainly is. It really is. I'm just going to see what Tommy John...
That's how the World Series ended. That fat catcher hit into a double play. I sort of knew it. I said he's going to hit into a double play. Now, obviously he could hit. You couldn't pinch hit for him. You had to just,
Yeah, Tommy John was... He was with the White Sox, 14-7, 14-11. ERAs, 2.62, 1.98, 2.47, 2.89. He was brilliant. Then he went to the Dodgers, ERA mostly under 3. Another guy that really didn't strike out anybody, but he kept the ball in the yard. He didn't give up a lot of walks.
I don't know. He was on the 74 Dodgers?
He was on the Dodgers from 72 to 78, went to the Yankees and went 21-9 for the Yankees in 1979, 2.96 ERA, 276 innings, 37 starts. He was great with the Yankees.
Yeah, no, he knew to pick those sinker ballers. I think he got hurt in 74. That's the year the Dodgers got into the World Series.
Yeah, he was 13-3 that year. He only started.
But unfortunately, he got hurt. The great pitcher they had that year was Messerschmidt.
Andy Messerschmidt. Now, do you know that when he went to with the Yankees, he went back-to-back, 21-9, 22-9.
And the overlooked, I should mention it, and the Hall of Famer they had, which was on the 74 roster, of course, was Don Sutton, who sometimes Don Sutton always got overlooked, but he always went to the hill and performed.
Always did. Who was the starting staff there? Was Messerschmidt, Sutton?
Well, Tommy John got hurt. It's a heck of a staff. I don't know if Doug Rao. The bullpen guy was Marshall,
Mike Marshall,
who I think set the record of pitching 200 innings out of the bullpen. Imagine that. They can't do it. They can't do it for starting anymore.
No, the 74. The Dodgers 74 team.
It's a good team.
Yeah, Willie Crawford. Remember Willie Crawford?
He's good. And the Dodgers 70. Right.
Okay.
Now,
Mike, Jim Brewer, Al Downing, Charlie Huff, Rex Hudson, Tommy John, Mike Marshall, Andy Messerschmidt, Doug Rao, Rick Rhoden before he went to the Cubs, remember?
Okay, yes,
Don
Rick
Sutton,
Rhoden.
And Jeff Zahn. Look at all the lefties they had. They had
Now,
Al Downing.
Tommy Lasorda was not the manager. It was Walter Alston.
Walter Alston. Yeah, absolutely. Lee Lacy, remember him, the infielder?
Yeah, he bet. Now what you had is so you had Garvey emerge as a star, winning the MVP in 1974.
Garvey was great. Yeah, he was about 26 years of age,
Yep,
and he was a great, great fielder.
with the Popeye forearms.
Oh, remember? And Bob Murphy used to mention it every time he came up. Remember?
Yeah, he could, but yeah, and he wasn't just now. He was Garvey was strong, but he was a great hitter. He wasn't really a big home run hitter because I don't think he pulled that much. But he hit power. He was a consistent cleanup hitter, middle of the order hitter, drove in runs all the time.
Yeah, they had a good team back then with Willie Crawford, Willie Davis,
And I think Say was the third baseman.
Ron Say, and then he ran for office. Steve Garvey, didn't he?
Yeah. So Steve Garvey, the former MVP. So that's what California and a schlep, like, what the heck's the guy's name now? I even forgot his name. He's so insignificant. The guy who won. What the heck's his name? That little weasel in California.
I forget. I know who you're talking about. Listen to these years: 21 and 111 hit 312. 18 and 95 hit 312 again. 319, 317, 33.
See, I like that. 18 homers, but he drove in 95 runs.
His 162 game average was 19 and 91, 31 doubles, a 294 average. But you know what's funny? You look at these OPSs, right? Usually 750 and above would be an all-star. 775. A lot of you can see how hitters have changed now. Because back then, if you had a 760, you were considered a star. Now, if Nimmo has 750, they figure, he's okay. Now they want 800.
Yeah, going through. I mean, just I guess Garvey was just a very good hitter, middle of the order. I mean, he was an all-star. He was consistent. That's
Right.
the best. In fact, there is no Mad Dog Russo is big on Garvey should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a good argument. I mean,
I think it certainly was.
We'll ask
best
Garvey if he thinks he should be. Maybe we'll call him and get him on
Well,
the show.
put it this way: first base.
Because that is the most. If you want controversy back and forth, who should be in the Hall of Fame? Boy, that's the one that.
Well, I'll tell you
You could argue to the cows come home with that one.
One of my requisites. I think you have to be, even for a small time, the best player at your position. I think if you're a pitcher, unless you're going against Koufax, if you are not the best pitcher on your staff, how do you go to the Hall of Fame? Now, Darryl Strawberry was great, but I believe that Andy Pettitte was never the best pitcher on his staff. Now, if you had guys like Randy Johnson for 10 years.
Andy Pettitte's not a Hall of Fame. I don't.
No, Mike Mussina, arguably. I think Mussina was a better pitcher than Don Sutton.
It's
compiler of Don Sutton.
Yeah. I'll tell you what the knock on Sutton is. I don't begrudge. I think Sutton belongs in the Hall of Fame, but let me tell you what the other side was. Exactly what you said. He really wasn't the best pitcher on his team, but he was consistent, and there probably were years that Don Sutton was the best pitcher on his team, but he wasn't. He sort of didn't have the title as a no-brainer, Don Sutton. Like, for example, 74, Andy Messerschmidt was the best pitcher, but Andy Messerschmidt didn't have a career or anything close to Don Sutton's because he couldn't stay healthy.
I agree. And you know what's funny? In 1975, there was a rumor that Seaver was going to go to the Dodgers. You know who it was going to be for? It was going to be for Don Sutton, Bill Russell, and Jerry Hairston.
I heard that.
Jerry Royster. No, Jerry Royster.
Mm.
And you know what? That would have been an interesting trade.
Yeah, the problem is, you can't. I like Sutton. He's in the Hall of Fame. Seaver is one of the great pitchers in the last 50. I mean, there's a difference. Seaver is, like I said, Seaver. I would argue that he's one of the great pitchers, without a doubt, in the last 50 years. He would be
Mike,
top.
Was Pedro Martinez better than Tom Seaver?
No, I don't think so. In the era, I would not, because if you look at Seaver's career, look, Pedro. Your argument for Pedro is
in the steroid era. in the steroid
Yeah,
era.
well, that is the argument when you're going to go say that. They even brought that up with Koufax. I wouldn't. Was Pedro better than Greg Maddux? I don't know if he was better than Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux might have been the best
Was
pitcher of his
Randy
era.
Johnson better than Seaver?
No, I don't think he's better than Carlton.
Well, Carlton was great. Do you know who Carlton got traded for?
Rick Wise.
Yes, very good. And everyone thought
By the
Rick
way-
Wise that they beat him on that trade. Rick Wise was a serviceable pitcher.
I understand with Ohtani when he hit 3 homers and he pitched that great game. But remember something before you go get crazy. Rick Wise, who's a pretty good pitcher, not one of the great players ever, right?
A number
Rick
2
Wise. No, you can look this up. Rick Wise pitched a no-hitter and hit 2 home runs in the game. That's
he's a good hitter.
So if we're gonna just go by that, then you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't get better than that.
Well, I'm going to give you the 20 best pitchers in the modern era. And interesting, the last 45 years, 50 years. Guess who is number 1?
Well, they might have Koufax as number 1.
Pedro.
I don't agree with that.
At his peak, he won 3 Cy Young Awards, took home the ERA title 5 times, strikeout title 3 times,
So,
8
Is
times.
this a list? Yeah. Well, before we go, no. I look.
Pretty good.
That's why there's debate. Question: What year are we going to? Is Koufax included in that span? First of all, Gibson or no?
Probably not. Modern day, they have Pedro number 1, Greg Maddux number 2, Randy Johnson number 3, Clemens number 4, Clayton Kershaw number 5, Tom Seaver number 6. Golden age of.
Seaver's better than all of them. I don't understand.
12-time All-Star, 3 Cy Young Awards, 3 ERA titles. And you got to remember, how many games would Seaver have won if he wasn't on the Mets? The Mets.
That's what I mean. For him to win, even to win that many games on the teams he played for, that's why I don't think those guys would have done that.
I think Seaver would have won another 40 games with the Mets.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Okay, if you look, first of all, here's the interesting thing with Seaver. In the modern era, him and I think Ryan both have the most shutouts. Now, Ryan pitched for 27 more years than Seaver.
Well, they have in there Jim Palmer, Roy Halladay.
Jim Palmer is. It always amazed me how Jim Palmer's so underrated. I mean, obviously,
very underrated.
He looked like a movie star, and he won 20 games 8 times. I don't know what else you want. I mean, they got one of the most underrated pitchers.
What did you think of Ferguson Jenkins?
Hall of Fame, great pitcher.
Phil Nico?
But great pitcher. But he shouldn't have got the Cy Young Award. Go look in 71. See if he didn't get a Cy Young Award for that. That's a heist.
In 1971?
Look at Seaver's year and look at Jenkins' year. Jenkins got the Cy Young Award. That for Seaver not to get that should have been at the time 71 would have been Seaver's second Cy Young Award because he won in 69. So that's
he had a 10 WAR Jenkins in 71. They said it was a very weird season. He was truly the second best pitcher that year behind Tom Seaver. Seaver had a 1.76.
Yeah.
He was robbed of the MVP. So how could the second best pitcher deserve the MVP?
Right. So I'm saying this. So Jenkins got the Cy Young Award.
Yes.
Which is yeah.
And you're right. They just said 3 people here said that he was something else, but he lucked into that. They said
now
the MVP though.
Now I don't begrudge Jenkins being in the Hall of Fame. He had a great career, he deserves the Hall of Fame. But he shouldn't have got the Cy Young Award. He wasn't better than Seaver. He wasn't anything. It wasn't even debatable. Seaver was so much in 71. The other guy in 71, the other league who had a spectacular year was Vida Blue in 71.
Vida Blue, what was he, 25-7 or something?
Yeah, that was a terrific year Vida Blue had in 71. Dominant.
Vida Blue.
But 71, Seaver was so dominant. Look at how many complete games he had.
I'm going to look at his stats right now. But why do you think he lost it?
The reason why, I don't know if it's Well, Jenkins won a couple of more games, is my guess. I think Siva was how Siva. By the way, I think Siva won 20 games too. It's not like. By the way, it's not like Siva had that incredible stats like Jacob DeGrom, and then he won 10 games. Siva won 20 games in 71, didn't he? It's on
Let
there.
me take a look. Let me take a look here. 1971.
Maybe we'll have to get the writers. We'll call them back, whoever's alive from 71, and get them to revote.
That's he pitched 18 games at home with a 1.90 ERA. 18 on the road, 1.62 ERA. Unbelievable. How did he lose it?
And he won, I believe, 20 games, right?
I'm looking here.
Well, it's not like, he won 12 games, he's great, but we can't,
Right. Let's see here. And then we'll put up Ferguson Jenkins. I remember Jenkins when the Mets really didn't hit a lot. And
Jenkins was a big time pitcher.
Okay, 71. He was 20-10, 1.76 ERA. He gave up 18 homers. Well, let's look at Ferguson Jenkins. I'll tell you someone that I always thought was a little underrated too. Jerry Koosman.
100%.
I thought Koosman was a good.
If he was on a better offensive team, he may very well have been in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But you're right. How many games did Tom Seaver leave tied or losing 2-1? The Met teams couldn't hit.
No, that's what I mean. He had extra innings. How many times? First off, in his first 10 years with the Mets.
Excuse me for a second. Okay, 71. Jenkins started 39 games, 24-13, 2.77, a 1 ER. Now in Wrigley Field, I guess Shea was a better pitcher's park. Wrigley, the ball flew out of there back then.
But Seaver's ERA was even lower on the road.
325 innings he threw. It's a lot. No, I agree with you. I don't know how Seaver.
But if you look at Seaver's innings in complete games, it's not like Seaver Seaver must have threw 270, 280 innings.
Yeah, 285, I think.
285 innings. I mean, it's not like in 20 games. It's not.
Yeah, right.
I feel like getting all those writers back in there and making them revote.
Yeah, right. 1971. Let me just go back to Seaver in 71 because now you got me thinking. In 71, 286 innings, 289 strikeouts. His WHIP was 0.95. That's incredible because you had really good ball players back then. Back then you had, look at how many Hall of Famers came from like
I don't know how many
67
people
to
listening to this. Guess what player who's a very good hitter for his career, very good hitter.
Who's that?
Slow as anything, but he could hit. Had an incredible year with the Cardinals and won the MVP, Joe Torre.
Torre was great. Torre was some hitter.
Seaver would have won 30 games if he had Joe Torre's bat in that lineup.
Can you imagine that year if he would have had run support in the top 10? He probably would have won 26, 27 games. Incredible. Really incredible.
Yeah. But what really makes him incredible is he won anyway.
Right.
That's what's
like, look at DeGrom. Do you know DeGrom?
As great as DeGrom was, it's very hard to win when they don't score for you.
They said DeGrom left so many games down, 1-0 or 0-0 in the seventh inning.
Yeah. To be fair, because I followed DeGrom that whole year I was watching it, as many Met fans were.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst luck anybody had. I can't remember anything. He like that. It was absurd how little run support he got.
I think they said 50 games he gave up 1 or less runs and didn't win. That's think of that. Giving up 1 run or less and not winning. How is that possible? That shows you it can just get in your head. the hitters they got, because Jacob deGrom. You look at Jacob deGrom's stats, and I got to tell you,
No, that
deGrom
was
is
an
as good
incredible
as
year.
Martinez. If you look at his stats, I wish he would have not gotten hurt just to see what he would have done that year when he was having that amazing year. He might have really had a 1.2 ERA that year.
Yeah, no, you can't pitch much better than when I saw DeGrom pitch. It was an incredible year. He pitched a lot of innings too. It's a crime he won 10 or 11 games. I mean,
he won comeback player of the year this past year. Did you know that?
He's still a good pitcher, and if
not
you get
quite as dominating. Like this past year, he 172 innings, 122 hits.
How many wins? He won some games.
He went 12-8, 2.97 ERA, and he made 30 starts. Good. That's a bad year for him. 2.97 ERA.
I'll tell you one problem is, and he probably could have won 15. That Ranger bullpen stunk.
Look at these years. 10-9, 32 starts with a 1.7 ERA. He won 10 games. 2.43 ERA, won 11 games. Right there, they should be both 20-game winners. Unbelievable. His lifetime average, 162 games, is 13-9 with a 2.57 ERA. In modern-day baseball, the last 15 years, he has the best whip of any active pitcher. Strikeouts to walk ratio, any active pitcher. Incredible. Unbelievable player.
Yeah, no, a lot of so that list is interesting. Did Steve? Where was Steve Carlton on that list of 20 pitchers? Because he pitched in that era.
He wasn't in the top 20.
Well, okay, that's what I mean with this.
And that shows you how many great pitchers there were from that era. Like 10 of them.
In Seaver's era, there were so many great pitchers that you're in the Hall of Fame. And Carlton was one of the great pitchers in Palmer. Obviously, Nolan Ryan. I know sometimes Nolan Ryan was a little sloppy, okay, with the but his durability was incredible. It's not going to be surpassed. I remember Nolan Ryan in his mid 40s throwing a no hitter. So he sort of was almost a little bit like Tom Brady. He didn't really give it to Father Time until eventually everybody gives it to Father Time, but. But in other words, they still dominated in their 40s.
Well, this will show you. Think of now when your number one pitcher starts and who they go against, right? In 1972,
Carlton's incredible year.
You would be going against guys like Gibson, Marichal, Sutton, the Negro brothers. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Ferguson Jenkins.
Absolutely. Bert Blyleven.
When you're right, but for the Mets,
another guy we forgot, Gaylord Perry, another guy, Cy Young Award in both leagues.
Yeah.
So they have these lesser pitchers who really, injuries, who are really top pitchers. Like the Big Red Machine doesn't sort of get credit. Their pitching was, first of all, their bullpen was very good. They were one of the teams that had multiple really good relievers on those teams. But they also had some pretty good starting pitchers. And the one guy they had who could have been great, but he was always injured, but when he pitched, was Don Gullit.
I was just going to say, and Gary Nolan. Do you know that Steve Carlton? I don't go WAR. He had a 12.5 WAR, wins above replacement.
Oh, Steve Carlton,
the best ever. Right, 72. You're right. How was he not at 20? He had a 1.97 ERA.
Yeah, Carlton's 72 year was just incredible.
27 wins.
Sandy Koufax had nothing over that year. The thing is, what Sandy Koufax did that was special, he had like a Carlton year and that Seaver year in 71, and he did it like 3 or 4 times in the 60s.
Yeah.
Which was pretty incredible.
The lead, who led in 1972 in WHIP that year? Don Sutton.
But his whip was better than Carlton's in 72?
Yep. 0.91.
How can it have been better than Carlton's, though?
Carlton was 0.99. Sutton, then you had Gary Nolan, who had a great. You know who was number 4? Jim McAndrew.
Oh.
Jenkins was number 6. Seaver was number 8. So Sutton did have a really big. I didn't realize Sutton in 72.
And again, my opinion on Sutton, he's deserving of the Hall of Fame. He won over 300 games. He tons of complete games, and there were times he was the best pitcher on his team.
I'll give you this. His career WAR was 66.7. Okay, let me get to Tom Seaver and see what Seaver's WAR was.
Here's the difference between let's say Seaver, Carlton, and Seaver versus Sutton. It was a no-brainer. You said Steve Carlton was considered the ace of the staff, right?
Right.
Where it didn't come out of the fans' mind, or even the announcers saying, it was, Don Sutton was one of the top, always one of the top pitchers, but he wasn't necessarily the accepted ace of the staff all the time.
Well, look at it this way: Sutton 67 career WAR, right? Tom Seaver 92.
Yeah.
Palmer was right where Sutton was, 68. So Tom Seaver was a third better than Don Sutton. That is incredible.
Yeah, well, and that's the contemporaries. And you're talking about 2/3 better than a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Now, Palmer's a good example. After maybe Cuellar in 69 and McNally, what a staff they had with those Orioles.
But look at it this way, Mike, and you'll love this. Remember, Jim Palmer had an infield of Mark Belanger, Brooke Robertson, Bobby Grich, probably the best middle infield ever, and that helps your WAR.
Sure, but I mean, Palmer's great, and I think he won 20 games, maybe 8 times. It's incredible what he did.
It's incredible. I'll be right back, Mike. Continue to talk to them. I'll be right back.
No, I got to just shut something off. I'm going to just go. I'll come back. Hold on. Let me just.
Okay, I am back. Mikey will be back in a minute. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Somebody say Blue Moon Autumn?
Blue Moon Odom?
Yes, that's the Oakland A's. That was part of that great staff. He was probably the maybe third or fourth starter because they had obviously Catfish Hunter. We forgot about Catfish mentioning all these great pitchers. There was another
Catfish, he
great
was
Hall of
great.
Fame pitcher. Yeah, that era from and then obviously Marichal Gibson, but they were a little bit before that.
Odom had that one great year, and then he had a couple of
But
2.45, but
yeah,
his
you couldn't.
career was 9. He
Yeah,
was hurt.
Vita Blue was he came into he was the household name in 1971.
Oh,
Vita
remember?
Blue.
Let's put Vita Blue up because he struck out a lot of guys, didn't he?
Yeah.
He pitched till 1986. He won 209 games, Vita Blue. I didn't
No, a
realize
heck of a career. These guys, absolutely.
Vita Blue was
In 71, it was just an incredible year.
in 71. He threw 312 innings, 2.11 ERA. Unbelievable. Let's see, 71. I'm looking for his where's the wins losses? I can't find.
I think he won a lot. He won over 20. No, he had a big win total too. He was on a pretty good team too.
Yeah. Where the hell is his
You had Reggie, Sal Bando, Joe Rudy.
I'm looking for the they give you all these stats and I can't find regular wins losses here. Postseason batting, fielding.
I mean, I can go to Baseball Reference.
Yeah, they don't have to do. Vita Blue. Standard pitching.
But
okay, Vita really Blue went 24-8 with a 1.82 ERA, 312 innings, 301 strikeouts.
Incredible pitching.
A whip of 0.95 and a WAR of 9. I would think it would be more than 9. How the hell did Carlton have a 12?
Yeah, Carlton won, I think, half of his team's. Carlton's year.
Oh, right. 54 games they won that year. You're absolutely right. And Moon, you're right.
Yeah.
3 times. Moon won 23 times, and at 18, and he was really much better than I thought.
Oh yes, Vita Blue was a heck of a pitcher. I mean, Catfish was Catfish was.
Oh, let me go to Catfish now.
Catfish had some great years.
I remember when he went to the Yankees.
But we should mention the other guy they had, very interesting, is Ken Holtzman was a heck of a pitcher, and they got him from the Cubs. So what I always find interesting is that it's almost like they were the A's were eyeing him, and they brought him over like, and he upped his game. He was pretty good with the Cubs, and he was even better. And that's similar to, I don't know, there was a guy named Mike Cuellar who was
Baltimore.
In 69, he was the ace of their staff. He matched up with Seaver in games 1 and 4. They got him a couple of years earlier from, I think, Houston, and he was pretty good. And then it's almost like they were, they had their sights on him.
It sounds like Catfish 5 straight 20-game win seasons. ERAs, he was great. 328 innings he pitched for the Yankees in 75.
Yeah, that was. Yes,
wow.
and that's what right. And
Mike Cuellar, you said.
And that's when Seaver won a Cy Young Award, and Randy Jones finished second in 75.
Cuellar pitched 19 years, right?
Yeah, a great pitcher. And his 69 year was really big.
69, he was 23-11.
Yeah,
he won 24-8. 70 had a great year. Yeah. He started 40 games, 39, 40, 38. So, he's unbelievable.
The 69 Orioles staff, Jim Palmer was the third starter. That's how good they were.
Well, that's pretty scary.
Yeah,
let me just look at Rick Wise while we were talking about him. for Carlton because
Well,
when did he get traded? I want to see what was his stats going into that trade. There must have been a reason why they traded him. When did he get traded? In 70 or something?
Yeah, Carlton started with the Cardinals. So you would think like the Cardinals would be so smart because they were always a pretty good team, and the Phillies would felt terrible, but
Wise won
the
15
Phillies
games.
pulled the heist off.
He was a 500 pitcher Wise. Competitive, 3 ERA, but 13 and 14. That Philly wasn't
He could
really
hit,
good.
though. He could swing the
he
bat.
could. He could. But yeah, very undistinguished. His WAR, his lifetime WAR was 32, but he pitched 18 years.
Yeah,
I wonder what Greg Maddox's WAR was.
Yeah, well, another great pitcher. That's why on the era, I don't know if you could, it's hard to
107.
rank.
Can you imagine?
I wouldn't rank
107.
Pedro. I wouldn't rank Pedro ahead of Greg Maddox.
Well, he had 107 his lifetime WAR. That's a lot, but he pitched a lot of years. And let's see, Pedro Martinez. It's got to be around the same, right, Pedro? 84. Pitched about 7 years less, though, right?
Yeah, no, Pedro did have some. Look, Pedro had some incredible years. Look, there was a time they used to do the comparison to Pedro and Koufax, how they dominated, with those years. Look, it's
Koufax. I'm looking at him now. Koufax.
Yeah. See, what's incredible about Koufax is these incredible years like Carlton had, Siva, Vita Blue. Koufax had like 3 or 4 of them in a row. If you look,
Koufax's big years.
There were a lot of them, very big years.
He was the big ones from 62, 14 and 7, 25 and 5, 19 and 5, 26 and 8, 1.88 ERA, 174, 204, 25. Yeah, he was 25, 26 years old. He was done when he was 30 years old.
Yeah.
335 innings and 320. No wonder he got hurt, Mike. He threw 650 innings the final 2 years of his career.
Yeah, he pitched the World Series game on 2 days rest. That was the great story with one of the World Series. So he didn't, and I think it was Yom Kippur. So he wouldn't pitch. Okay, I understand on Yom Kippur, but there's a great story. So Drysdale was another great pitcher, a Hall of Famer. And had many great years. He's known for the 68 year. Okay, with the record until Hershiser broke it. So Drysdale, and he didn't pitch well at all, and like he got hit around, and I think Alston came out to the mound to get him, and he looked at Alston and he said, "I bet you wish I was Jewish," because do
you know that he had 11
because he went
shutouts in 63?
He took his starts, and but I'm sure Drysdale. That was a good one. That was a terrific 1-2 punch. Koufax and Drysdale.
Let's see Don Drysdale. Yeah, you're bringing us back to when we were kids, or we weren't even kids. I'm older than you.
I never saw Don Drysdale.
Neither did I.
Except on the Brady Bunch, I saw him.
Drysdale, 25 and 9, 25 and 9, 19 and 17. ERA always in the 2s. 60,
no, him.
61 more. Wow, he was good.
Koufax and Drysdale, incredible combination, and they also held out together. That's another great story.
What was that?
They held out their contracts together 1 year. That's a story within itself. Really? Oh yeah.
Oh really?
That's a whole story. Yeah, I'm sure there's an old-time Dodger guy who could tell you that.
Wow. Oil can.
And obviously, this is before all this free agency. So you didn't have that. If anybody had leverage, it would be obviously Sandy Koufax and then, of course, Don Drysdale. But players in general, they didn't have the leverage.
Tom Seaver today, 27 years of age. What would he get on the open market? 45 million a year.
Yeah, well, that was that. They asked
right?
that. Yeah, they asked that. I think once at Joe DiMaggio, and he passed away a while ago. But he said, "What are these salaries? What would you have gotten?" He said he would have went to the owner and said partners.
Can you imagine a guy like Joe DiMaggio would probably be making $55 million a year?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, I mean,
If Soto got 45, DiMaggio's getting 50.
That's right. Yeah, I can't. It's just incredible. The sad thing is, how come the fans knew? The fans always, knew how important, Seaver was to the franchise. Too bad M. Donald Grant didn't know it. That's pretty sad.
That was incredible how Siva unceremoniously was let go. They didn't think anybody would pick him up, and they got claimed off waivers. And
that was you're right.
Terrible.
That was later on. I was going to 77 with M. Donald Grant. How they ran him, they ran him out of town. But they really mismanaged that team. That team should have been so good with that pitching.
Absolutely.
In 75, look this up. Rusty Staub, how old he was? He might have been 30 years old. He drove in over 100 runs. He was the first guy ever to drive in 100 runs for the Mets. And
really?
Then they traded him.
I remember when they got him, he got hit in the hand by a pitch, broke his hammock bone, missed 2.5 months. He was having a year, I think in his first 60 games, he had like 49 RBIs, Mike. He was having some year for the Mets.
Yeah.
And
no, Staub could hit. But what I mean is in 75,
okay, let's look.
Look at the year he had for the 75 Mets, and then they trade him?
105.
Yeah, first guy to drive in 100 runs for the Mets.
He had 30 doubles. He had 4 triples. Oh, I guess they were just letting him run around. How the hell did he have 4 triples?
So the Mets franchise started in 62. It took all the way to 1975 for somebody to break 100 RBIs.
And then they traded him.
And then
he went on to he went 19.
Look how he hit. How did he hit in Detroit? What was his numbers in 76?
The next year, he played 161 games. He played 155 for the Mets. He went 15 and 96 at 299. Then 22 101 at 278. 24 and 121 273. So he really played well with Detroit.
You got Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, and John Madillac. It's gold to have a guy like Rusty Staub who knows how to drive in runs.
Absolutely.
And they traded him instead of adding a bat and doing what they can.
I'm looking at his fielding stats. He was he was only 31 in 75, Mike.
That's what I'm saying.
Opening day, he turned 31.
In the prime of his career, he was just a great hitter. I mean, if you had it, then he could have played first base, but he was okay in right field. But he could
lifetime hit. 793 OPS. His lifetime OPS was better than Johnny Bench. Almost an 800 OPS, and he was a pitch hitter for the last 4 years of his career.
Yeah, there's a case for him to be into the Hall of Fame. I'd have to see his stats. What hurts Staub is he pinch hit and didn't get when he could still hit. The problem, of course, he wasn't. He's very slow, and he didn't really have a fielding position to play. I guess he could have played first base at the end. But he was
something.
Yeah,
he played 22 years. He never struck out 100 times.
No, like I said, Staub could hit,
incredible.
And he was a borderline Hall of Famer. And
I think so.
And I will tell you, and the thing that hurt him though was what he was known for towards the end of his career. But you're talking
cooking,
about years.
barbecues.
Yeah, barbecue, but pinch hitting. And it used to be when the Mets were bad, when they brought Staub back, it was like a treat. Oh, Rusty Staub would pinch hit, and then they'd bring in the pinch runner. They made a little show out of it. But the problem is he needed to get more bats to add to those lifetime stats, and maybe he could have gotten to the Hall of Fame.
Hey, Ethan, how are you? Welcome to the channel. Yeah, I got to tell you something, Mike. God forgive me. I think Rusty probably deserves to go in before Keith Hernandez.
Yeah, I mean, right. The problem with Keith Hernandez, he did win a he did win the MVP in '79. So he got
12 Gold Gloves or 11 or something like that.
Yes. Now, but of course,
That's a
like I
lot.
said, first base is very tough because the offensive bar is very high for the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Um, but look, I think if Keith had more years the way he had it, he he certainly would be low. If you look at him in his prime, at his position, the only stat with Keith Hernandez would be below par for your top first
Power.
baseman is the home runs. However, he drove in the runs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he
he
did it his
definitely
way.
did.
So, and if you look at his prime, he probably averaged 85, 90 RBIs
Keith?
with that great defense. Yeah. He can
Yep.
hit 12 homers and drive in 85, 90 runs.
Now, I guarantee you his WAR had to be amazing. Had to be at least 7 or
Well,
8.
now and he changed the game at first, whereas you couldn't bunt on him, so he was really invaluable in a tie game.
Well,
In the
you know
seventh,
what's
eighth.
interesting, Mike? His WAR, his best WAR was 7.6 in his MVP year. He was usually 4.5, 5. That's interesting. I thought it would be a lot more with that defense.
I'm not crazy about the stat war. I mean, I
Neither
don't
am I.
really. I mean, you buy Keith Hernandez was really good.
His average year was 13 and 83, 296. Now you got to figure if you took the last 3 years out, it's probably more like 15 and 88
But
or
let's
89.
but Keith is there, and even I think even Keith would even acknowledge this. Why did it eventually he left the Mets? Right? Is he was still probably a premier defensive first baseman, but the point is once he couldn't hit like he was, it's very hard to hold the position of first base no matter how good defensively you are.
Yeah.
Keith Hernandez. He even took pride. He always calls them. He called them the ribeye steaks, those RBIs.
Right. He had a lifetime 821 OPS. That's pretty good.
Keith knew he was a great situational hitter, and he could drive in the runs. And
Never struck out another guy.
Let's put it
Struck
this
out
way:
104 times once.
what made him special is his defense at first base. But you got to hear about his defense because he could hit. If he couldn't hit that well, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to play first base like that.
Ethan's saying Nimmo offensively almost identical to Bellinger. Bellinger's a guy that was released 2 years ago from the Dodgers. He was DFA'd. Can you imagine? I could see him going back.
Bellinger's a good defensive player. I've seen him. I look at him in the outfield. He plays center. So
Absolutely. Well, he has versatility. He's probably a even player in center. A corner outfield is where he's at his best.
But he's plus in the corner outfields.
He's definitely a plus in the corner. Has a plus arm, and he's a good situational hitter. Let's see. Brandon
and he
Nimmo.
did have a very good year.
Yeah, Nimmo is 21 and 70,
Nimmo, by the way,
262 average. He's a 2.9. He had his best WAR in 22, and that's when he signed the 8-year 160 right after that. But look, he's played. The thing with him was they were worried about his him being fragile. He ended up playing more than 150 games the last 4 years.
Look, I like Nimmo. I don't want to see him go. The only thing is, I would have liked, like I said, I would have liked him at the top of the order. I thought I think he would have, been a little bit more selective, and you would have seen more of the old Nimmo. He probably thought his role changed a little, and he did drive in 90 runs.
Yeah, he did. Well, he drove in, I think, 10 the last 4 games. Remember, he had a great stretch. Ethan, welcome to the channel. Let's see what Cody Bellinger had a 5 WAR last year. And that's certainly defense. But Bellinger last year was 29.98 at 25 doubles. He doesn't strike out. His WAR with 5 WAR. He's had consistently a plus WAR other than 21 with the Dodgers. And
Bellinger's a good fit for the Yankees. Quite frankly.
Absolutely. The only place that he'll go other than the Yankees is he'll go back to the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers need.
He liked LA. He was very happy in LA. But he's another guy that peaked. He won the MVP. He had an 8.7 WAR when he was a kid. He was 23 years old. He went 47 and 115. Had a great year. And he reminded me a lot of Andrew Jones, where Andrew Jones, by the time he was 29, was done. Well, that's a
Right.
steroid.
And Andrew Jones was an excellent center fielder and big home run hitter.
Yeah, he had to be on steroids, Andrew Jones.
Yeah, he looked like a lock for the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Bryce Harper arguably had his best year when he was like 19 years of age. He never duplicated that year. He's had great years, Bryce Harper. But
no, he's adjusted. He's a good player act. The Philly GM was saying that. Are we going to see like the Bryce Harper who could be dominant? We'll see, because he wasn't dominant, but he's good. He did. Now I will tell you, he's also a pretty good first baseman. He adjusted well to playing first base.
Well, he's a good athlete. Now, so to wrap this up, what do you think? I think the Mets sign Alonso. I think Diaz goes to the Dodgers.
Well,
or Toronto.
Well, to me, Alonso's a must.
I think Bellinger ends up back with the Yankees. I think Diaz ends up with Toronto or the Dodgers. Alonso probably signs with the Mets, and I'll say 155.
Oh, okay. You think that the Dodgers are going to sign Diaz, the Mets closer?
Or Toronto. Toronto, if they had Diaz, wins the World Series this year. That might scare. That might have scared them enough, Mike.
I remember that first year Diaz. I never saw a reliever pitch as bad as him either.
He was terrible.
Terrible. What's interesting is the adjustments he made, because he obviously always had the live arm. But look, the Mets have to load up that bullpen, and they didn't do such a good job setting up the team. I know we're like at a time. We should do another time though, because as far as Mendoza, there has to be somebody. It's not just Mendoza, because who set up this pitching staff?
No, I agree.
That's what the Mets' big problem was, the starting pitching staff. McClain came and looked like a savior. McClain sort of covered it up. I'm very happy that they got a young pitcher like McClain.
A lot to put on him being a number one starter, though. You can't make him the number one starter. It's too much.
But here's the thing: is after the first of all, the first 2 months of the season, that starting pitching overachieved.
Yes, Ethan, you're absolutely right.
And since June, the Mets starting pitching was awful. It wasn't even okay. Now the bullpen, because Diaz did a good job, was pretty good. It wasn't great, but you had a strong closer. But if you look at the Mets, July, August, September, okay, maybe even mid-June, that starting pitching was awful. And McClain came along, and I think it's great what he did, but
Absolutely.
he sort of covered it up where you thought the Mets starting pitching, other than McClain, it was really bad. And Holmes he was okay. He gave you enough.
Do you know Holmes, out of all the pitchers that are free agents this year, Cease and all these, I think he pitched 160 innings at a 3.5 ERA. Holmes was a great signing that no one talks about. Edwin Diaz.
But Mania was terrible signing.
It was terrible.
Because
anytime that someone changes,
they saw that last game he pitched against the Dodgers. That was a disaster.
Can you believe that?
I still remember Tommy Edmonds beating him twice. I mean, you can't. A hitter like Edmonds cannot. Come on,
Mike. You want to know
how beat you
quickly time flies? Edwin Diaz has played 6 seasons with the Mets already.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you forgot all about the throw-in, which was because because the Mets had to carry his contract, but then they got lucky with what the heck? Robinson Cano. Because Cano shot himself in the foot, and I think because of the steroids, the Mets got out of paying him.
Look, his lifetime season averages.
Cano was washed up when they got him.
Oh yeah, well, and he had a comeback season with the Mets because he was on steroids again. But it's funny too. Diaz, arguably, you have to pay him. I would think that Diaz probably wants 5 years 125 from the Mets. Probably 25.
You know what's
I think the
interesting
Mets
about
probably
Cano?
offered him 3 at 25.
Just one thing just popped into my head. Again, I'm not. I dislike the Yankees. Okay, I always said, but to be fair, Cano was actually significantly better with the Yankees than when he went to Seattle. He probably had some good years with Seattle,
Oh yeah,
but he was a better player with the Yankees.
there was something about Cano that they let him walk. Well,
He
Robinson
was very,
Cano and
very
David Wright,
nonchalant.
the first 7 years of their careers, identical.
Oh,
David Wright and Robinson Cano.
hey, look, Wright could have been a great player, and he could have been in a Hall of Fame conversation. It's unfortunate he got hurt. I mean, that's just that's what stopped him.
After
He also
leaving
took
the Yankees,
I remember
went,
he took a bad beating too. I remember that as well.
yeah, he went 14 and 80. Well, with the Seattle, he hit 313, 314,
No,
he hit 382.
He had some good years with Seattle. He was also a really good defensive second baseman with the Yankees. His skills
Excellent.
started to. Okay, Cano had great hands at second.
Oh, it was tremendous.
He never. Now he was never a fast runner.
No, he was a smart runner. He was a good base runner for a while. And then all of a sudden, now David Wright, listen to these.
Oh, right.
stats.
Wright was on his way.
27 102, 26 116, 30 107, 33 124, 29 103. I took out 2 years that were injury plagued years. He had an 8.3 WAR, a 6.9 WAR, a 7.1 WAR, and a Gold Glove to boot. Look, David Wright would have been a surefire Hall of Famer with the Mets if he doesn't get hurt.
I agree. I don't disagree. Let me ask you though: was the injury the back on Wright?
Yes.
Stenosis. Yeah, that just strips you of your. It happened to Mattingly. Mattingly, without a doubt, was the dominant. I mean, like I said, he was just a dominant offensive player, Mattingly, and he was a good first baseman. But I mean, hit with power. Other than maybe George Brett, he was the next best all around hitter in baseball in that era.
I think you have to, Ethan. Yeah, I think what's going to happen. These are my predictions for the Mets. I think the Mets will really try to land Tatis. He knows Soto, they're friends. I think ultimately, though, what happens with the Mets, I think Diaz leaves. I think the Mets sign that Philly closer, that's the free agent. I think the Mets.
But the Phillies not going to sign that closer with all their money?
I don't think so. I think the Mets probably end up signing Dylan Cease, trading for King. If they can't get Tatis, they'll be in. No, King's a free agent, I believe. I think.
See, I don't even want Tatis only because I think that'll make an excuse not to sign Alonso. Let them sign Alonso.
I don't think Stearns wants a lot. Well, listen, if I can get Tatis and get a really good defensive first baseman, and I have a good defensive first baseman with Simeon and Lindor, I think Stearns would rather that.
Yeah, but first base is not okay. First base is not a defensive position where he's going to field well and he can't hit that well at first. I mean,
well, look at it this way, though. I think that Stearns blames Senga's injury on Alonso.
How was that?
That errant throw to Senga, that's when he pulled up with the hamstring, missed the whole season. And so, he has hurt 2 pitches. And he's going to regress defensively. He's not going to get better.
To me, you play him. You could DH him some too if you want. I mean, but a little bit. So he's gonna hit 40, 45 home runs somewhere and drove in 120 runs. I know.
I think they're resigned
though
to the fact, Mike.
As sure as God made green apples, that's going to happen.
I think though that they're resigned to the fact that Soto in 3 or 4 years will have to be the DH. That's why I think a lot of the reason they cleared Nimmo. I think they knew in 2 years.
I don't think you have to sign. I think you could give. Look, it's not my money, but you certainly could give him. You could give Alonso, 35, 40 million a year for 3 years. He would accept that.
You think
that's
so?
A lot of money. Yeah, that's not chump change for 3 years, guaranteed. Yeah, and I think he would be a premier. He's going to be a premier offensive player.
Ethan, I think you're right. I think I'll tell you this much. I
What
think
is
if
that?
the Mets,
Who's DeGrom is recruiting?
no,
Pete
yeah,
Alonso?
Nimmo called DeGrom when they asked him to overlook the. Ryan O'Hearn is good. Hey, Maycrez, how are you? I think that welcome to the channel. I think that very hard to get rid of two fan favorites in the same offseason. To get
That's a
rid of
good point.
and Alonso. Very hard for them to bite on that. Now, I think if you let two fan favorites go and you sign Tatis and you get Tatis in a trade, or you sign Tucker and maybe land a big starter, the only way the Mets fans are going to forgive a Nimmo and Alonso bust out is by getting Kubel, the starter. I think they'll be so excited.
Well, who would you have to give up?
You're going to have to give up Williams, Benj, probably. Sprout.
Where's Williams play?
Second base. But now for a couple of years, you got him, blocked with Simeon. But
but Williams isn't even ready yet, right?
Probably not. He probably can be rushed, but I don't think he's ready. He would have been up here already if he was ready. Could be, Ethan. Could be. I think Alonso. The thing with Texas, I think Texas is trying to shed money. They save about $30 million the first couple of years. They save money the first 3 years off Semi, and then they end up taking a hit.
Yeah, but with Nimmo, they took on a longer contract, though.
Yeah, so they're saving money the first 3 years, and the Mets are sending $5 million over there. So the first 3 years, I think they save about $5 million a year or something like that. But then they take the hit. But I don't think they think that Nimmo will be there in 5 years. I would think the Mets. Listen, Stearns can not want to go long term with a pitcher. I think there'll definitely be a very lengthy strike in 27. I would think they're going to miss most of the baseball season in 27. I think Cohen knows he has to go for it now. I think
you would think they're going to.
Oh, strike? Absolutely. They don't know what the cap is going to be. I agree. I don't think. Listen, Soto was not a Stearns. Soto was signed by Cohen. I don't think Stearns wants to sign anybody for that kind of money. But I think if you let Alonso walk, and Alonso has you over a barrel now, to let two staples of your team, core guys, go, you better give the fans something they can cheer about. I think Kubel would be one, Tatis would be the other. I don't even think Tucker will do it. I think you have to really wow the fans.
Well, the Kubel would be the dominant pitcher that you know.
Yeah.
And then you pair him with McLean, and if McLean's the real deal, you got the lefty-righty combination.
Yeah, and
I don't like the way Skubal, though, in the most important game of his career, 6 innings and I'm done.
I'm saying Kubel for some reason. Skubal, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that when he pitched that game 5 against her. He was dominant, and then 6 innings, and he gave it off to the bullpen like that. 6 innings only.
These guys, well, look.
And he wouldn't come back on short rest. I mean,
Oh, Skubal's great. He's not better than Skeens.
No, Skeens is correct. And you know what? I still think the pitcher, the lefty on the Red Sox, had a little better year in school.
You're right, Ethan. I'll tell you one thing also. When you get a guy like Skeens or Skubal, whomever, if you sign them to a 7-year contract, they're going to miss a year and a half. Skeens in the next 6 years is going to need Tommy John. Every top pitcher that throws that within 6 years needs Tommy John. So you're going to miss him for a year. That's part of doing business. But the lefty, Skubal being a lefty, is very enticing. Lefties tend to age better than righties. So Skubal in the year 34, 35, I trust him a lot more than a righty at 34 or 35. I just think that's the way it is in MLB. I agree with Ethan. I think Soto was trying to show the fan base, I'm here to win. Now, you took on a guy who's a second market GM who tries to save every penny. And I think it takes time. It's like your old Italian mother in law who now wins the lotto for 500 million and is still going on sale because milk is 10 cents less 2 blocks down the road. It's very hard to change a guy's thinking when Stearns has always been that way. But now I think Cohen has to say, like Soto, go get him. I want him. Cohen's still your boss. And I think he's going to say, try to get Tatis. San Diego's broke. San Diego has no money. They have a problem with the partnership. One person is suing the other person, brothers. I think
Oh,
you
really?
can get, I think you can get Tatis.
So they're going to have a fire sale?
Not a fire sale, but I think you can get Tatis. Soto already played with him. They've shared the spotlight. They get along. Tatis is friendly with Lindor. I think it's a perfect storm, but you still need pitching. That's the problem.
No, and it's hard, and you're gonna pay. It's gonna be very tough to get Scooble because the Tigers are gonna put a king's ransom. They're not. I mean, that's if they even want to trade him. Not that
They're not going to
want, but
sign
even
him,
if
Mike. They know they
what?
can't sign him. They can't sign him. They're not giving him $400 million. Detroit's not signing him.
Well, but he's okay, but he's not a free agent this year. He's a free
No.
agent after next year, correct?
Yeah, but I think they know with the strike coming, and there's going to be a strike. What do? He'll be a year older.
Yeah, I mean he's dominant. What's the guy? The guy in the Red Sox too. What's his? He had a year just as good as Scooble, and he won some more games. And,
Who's that?
and all his the pitcher on the Red Sox, Crochet.
Crochet. Listen, the Mets tried to get Crochet. They put an offer, but they didn't take.
Yeah, that's what I mean with these sites. So, and I understand these other stats matter, okay, but if you look at Crochet, his stats were just as impressive as Scooble. Plus, he won more games.
Yeah,
his ERA was right there. The WHIP, the wins, the strikeouts.
I think if Alonso leaves, it's Boston. I think that's who gets Alonso.
Crochet will win more games then.
I think Boston. I got to run, Mike. Thank you so much for coming.
Problem.
I got to go meet my
friend.
I
enjoyed it. This was great.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you during the week.
We got to do this again. Take care, Vinny.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye, Mike. The great Mike Massa. Mike ran for DA of Queens. He's a great guy. They won't get both, though. They won't be able to pay both. I don't think the Red Sox. And I don't know if Scooble will want to pitch in Boston. These guys don't like going to hitter-friendly ballparks. And you got the Green Monster. Scooble's a lefty. These guys want to win Cy Youngs. They want to. That's a big deal with that. But Ethan, thank you so much for coming in. And Mayaquis, I hope I pronounced that right. Met 62. Thank Ryan O'Hearn. I'm very interested, Ryan. Thank you for coming in. Check out some of my other shows. I do music. I do a bunch of things. I don't say I do them great, but I try. Thank you for coming in, everybody. I will see you soon. Guys, if I don't see you in any of the other shows, I'm going to do a few lives in the next few days. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. God bless you and your families. And I will see you soon. And, of course, let's go Mets.